Good afternoon and welcome to Olin Theater, the home of Theater Roanoke College. Today we gather to remember, to give thanks for, and to dedicate the space in a new way as we remember Crystal Lynn Van Hise, class of 1995, on this day. And so we will begin with a prayer, and so after a moment of silence, I'll invite you all to join me in prayer. We take a moment of silence as we remember. Let us pray. Inspire of song and dance and story, we gather today because there is no place like home, and this is one of the places where Crystal found home. She found a home here at Roanoke College, and especially here at Theater Roanoke College, a place where she was seen and learned to believe her own eyes. She came in the early 90s, and an amazing journey to learn all she should know began. Of course, she did it her way, double majoring in what appeared to many an odd couple, business and fine arts. There had to be a twist, but no, for her, that is what it took to reach the highest high and fulfill her sense of purpose and then earn the palms of a Roanoke College graduate. Her life is a unique story worthy of the stage which will now bear her name. The gifts we give thanks for are first and foremost her life and companionship. And now the inspiration her endowment will bring to generations of Maroons to come. As we continue to think of her fondly and to grieve that the curtain came down far too soon on her life, we ask you to comfort her family, friends, and mentors, both here and out there. And whether the sun comes out tomorrow or not, we can celebrate what we have seen, felt, touched, and been healed by. A superstar, Crystal Lynn Van Hise. Amen. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lisa Warren. Dr. Warren.
Hello. I know most of you in the audience and many of you out there in virtual land. In deciding how to welcome you to Olin Hall, I asked Beth and Susan and Holly and Scott what were Crystal's favorite plays. We all came up with basically the same, and the consensus was that her favorite Theater Roanoke College productions were The Heidi Chronicles by Wendy Wasserstein and Dancing at Lunasa by Brian Friel. And her favorite musical, of course, was Hamilton. Tommy was a close second, Scott. Good choices on her part. In The Heidi Chronicles, Heidi grows from an insecure 15-year-old girl to a 40-ish woman who is finally able to define herself rather than allowing other forces and people to do so. It was the first feminist play we produced here, and it resonated especially with the female students. And Dancing at Lunasa, which was the first play that Crystal and I saw together in London in 1992, is a lyrical play about memory and the power of memory and how we recall our past when we, as one character calls it, cast our minds back. I think her friends and I will always associate those plays with Crystal. Then there's Hamilton. I never got to see it with Crystal, although I know some of you did. I've seen it on Disney+. But that bold and beautiful musical is especially relevant today because this theater space was definitely the room where it happened for Crystal. Yes, she wanted to be in the scene shop with the power tools. She wanted to be in the light booth which she and Holly christened Mount Olympus because they were in control up there. And she wanted to be in this theater right here where you're sitting. In these rooms where it happened, Crystal spent countless hours in rehearsals, Sunday through Thursday nights, 6:30 to 10:30, always there. This was the room where so much happened. Friendships were forged, I'm sure you agree, and lessons learned, all from working as a team. That joyful spirit of creativity echoes through this space. The scene shop, the light booth, the stage, the auditorium, and Crystal's own gentle spirit and keen mind were central to many productions. As a stage manager, she managed student actors and techies with her gentle but iron fist. No one questioned that she was in charge for a good reason. She would let you know. And with me, Crystal always spoke with candor. When I asked, "Do you think that's too much?" or "Do you think we could do that?" she offered her opinions, and I listened, and she always encouraged. Neither George Arthur nor I were ever shy about loading up a show with more light cues or sound cues when Crystal was the stage manager, because we knew that from Mount Olympus, Crystal would handle it, and she actually welcomed doing more if it meant a better show. She was not going to miss her shot. Sorry. Some of you probably groaned over that Hamilton reference, but I couldn't resist it, and you know that Crystal would have thought that was funny. I have sat many nights in this very room and regaled subsequent students with tales of some of our crazy rehearsals. I won't give details out to people who weren't there, but George knows. And my memories are always dominated by those years here with Crystal and her peers. I can't mention you all by name, but you know who you are, and you could probably tell us some pretty juicy details about life in Olin. But now, I ask that you here today take a minute to breathe in the creative energy and the wonderful memories which fill this space. Memories in which Crystal played a key role. This was Crystal's room where it happened, and we won't forget that. It's now my honor to introduce the 11th president of Roanoke College, Michael C. Maxey.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. It is wonderful to be part of an event with so much pink in it, isn't it? I have but one pink bow tie, and it's on tonight. This evening is a special one for Roanoke College because Crystal was a special person. Crystal was a wonderful human being, a dedicated alumna, a loyal friend, and also a patron of Theater Roanoke College. I know many are joining us this evening, and I wish you could all be here with us in person to celebrate this moment. Yvette and Roger and Diana and Joanne, we're grateful to all of you to have you here in person. And I understand that family is viewing us tonight from London, Colorado, Texas, New Jersey, and Montana. Even from those great distances, we're joined by aunts and uncles and cousins and family and friends and classmates and colleagues. Thanks to all of you for being with us. In so many ways, this is a Crystal reunion for all of us. In my work at the college, I spent 17 years in the admissions office, and Crystal was one of the people that I admitted. And my first memory of her is when she came to visit. She made 2 visits, as I recall, one for a scholarship competition, because she was so smart. But in my work in the admissions office, I oftentimes meet many, many students, and I think, what a great young person. I hope they're here. And then I meet some, and I say, oh my goodness, we have to have this person here at the college. And Crystal was in that category. You know her, and you know why I'm saying that. I could tell immediately when I met her that she was especially smart. She had an effervescent personality that had charm, grace, and assertiveness, as you've heard before. Crystal's time at Roanoke demonstrates the best of a full-fledged Roanoke College experience. As you've heard, she double majored in business administration and fine arts. Two strange bedfellows for some people, but it made perfect sense for Crystal. Some of that, I believe, is because she was such an intellectually curious person and so broad-gauged in her own intelligence. And in her case, those two majors became complementary. When Crystal enrolled in a May term class, Contemporary British Theater, she found Theater Roanoke College. This place here is where she found a second home and a family. This place where she could learn and grow. This place where she would leave her mark for future students. As you know, Crystal's professional career was highlighted in her role as Vice President and Head of Human Resources at Star City Games in Roanoke. That's one example of how she leveraged all that she learned here with that double major to go on as a successful business professional. About 6 years ago, as I recall, I received an email from Crystal wanting to speak with me. She was worried about the college's support for Theater Roanoke. I would describe her as convincing and assertive, two of her many good qualities, and her call was to challenge me and challenge the college to provide better support for the theater. Oftentimes I have people who tell me what I should do for the college, but not always do I have someone who says, "And I will help you," and Crystal did. In 2016, Crystal sent a letter to all of her Theater Roanoke College friends and classmates and asked them to support an endowed fund to support student productions at the college. She not only talked the talk, she walked the walk. She wrote in her letter, in quotes, "I know you want to see the college's theater program thrive. I am truly inspired by the growth of Theater Roanoke College and believe our support will enable the program to continue to grow. It will come as no surprise to anyone that the endowment was quickly funded within a few months, and last year this fund was named for Crystal as a way to honor her joy and love for Theater Roanoke College. To complete the circle, I'm also honored to announce that Crystal's family has established a new endowment in her honor and memory, the Crystal Lynn Van Hise Endowed Fund for the Theater Roanoke College program. This fund will provide financial support for the theater program at the college, including support for student experiential learning like trips to London, for visiting artists to bring in folks from the outside who can inspire our students, to bring in visiting directors for the same purpose, and of course to support theatrical performances. This fund will give future generations and future Maroons the ability to experience Theater Roanoke College as Crystal wanted. And this evening, we are able to remember and celebrate Crystal. At this time, I'd like to invite Crystal's mom, Yvette, and father, Roger, to join me as we prepare to dedicate and unveil the plaque in her memory. Would you come forward, please? Lisa, you're going to help us too?
I have to pull from behind him.
I think we're ready. I'm going to read this to you because it's not legible from your seat, but Crystal Lynn Van Hise Stage, named in honor and memory of Crystal Lynn Van Hise, class of 1995. At a very early age, Crystal discovered her love of theater, and it was Theater Roanoke College where she found a second family and second home. As a student, Crystal found joy in creating live theater. She was involved in nearly all theater productions as a stage manager in areas in the scene shop, lighting design, and publicity. Crystal was a member of Alpha Psi Omega National Theater Honor Society As an alumna, she actively continued her support of Theater Roanoke College. And it concludes with a quote from Wendy Wasserstein: "Don't live down to expectations. Go out there and do something remarkable." And at the bottom, it notes that this was dedicated on May 8th, 2021. Please join me in applauding this gesture. In this moment, on behalf of the Roanoke College Board of Trustees, I am pleased to dedicate this stage in honor and memory of Crystal on this day, May 8, 2021. I cannot imagine a more fitting way to help students to be inspired by Crystal's life and to honor one of the great loves and passions of her life. Yvette, would you come forward and please share a few memories and thoughts?
President Maxey, faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends of Roanoke College. Most of you know many, if not all, of the stories linking Crystal to the theater. For example, if I said Annie, and then I said Star Wars, most of you would recognize what I mean, I hope. But you might not know that Annie was not the first Broadway show that Crystal attended. When I was 7 or 8 months pregnant with Crystal, I went on a class trip to see Jesus Christ Superstar. Unfortunately, there was a little boy sitting directly behind me who insisted on swinging his legs back and forth and kicking the back of my seat. It got even more uncomfortable when Crystal decided to exercise her feelings about the music by also kicking me. I'm not sure whether she was approving or disapproving, but I took it as a good omen that she might like the theater as much as I did. It turns out that there were 3 of us teachers at the high school pregnant at the same time, and we all had daughters within days of each other. We did lots of things together with the other 2 mothers and daughters, including, when they were about 3, going to see a community college production. It was a theater in the round performance, so mothers and kids sat in a circle on the floor, and the players came in and out of that circle. Her first live performance, Lyle, Lyle, Crocodile. And of course, I bought her the book right after the show. Later that year, Crystal made her own first foray into the performing arts. I'm not quite sure what inspired her, but she decided to take tap dancing lessons. So she and her friend Ellen took classes, and they got to perform as little tap dancing elephants in the school recital. Although she had never actually seen a real cow, she also had the opportunity to dress up in colonial garb and ride on the float of the New Jersey Dairy Princess in the local bicentennial parade. It didn't hurt that her babysitter, who was a teaching colleague of Mom's, had once been a dairy princess herself. And now that she was experienced at riding a float, she and her friend Ellen got to wear miniature letter sweaters and appear on the cheerleaders' homecoming float at Marlboro High School that year. 4 years old marked her next tryout dance, but this time it was ballet. I was working on cabaret that year and had to teach tap dancing to the Kit Kat girls. So some teacher friends and I took tap lessons, and Crystal and I got to be in the same recital. She was a snowflake, and I was in that famous dance sequence from A Chorus Line 1. This was 1977, so it was also the year of the Annie and Star Wars incident. The next year, when she started kindergarten, art created her first crisis. Crystal came home crying because her first report card gave her a needs improvement in coloring within the lines. Now, you know Crystal, she was always very meticulous with her coloring books, even outlining each feature. So our first teacher conference entailed me trying to explain to her teacher that she could stay within the lines when she wanted to, but she was apparently feeling expansive that day, so she didn't stay within them. You gotta love those 70s. I remember in second grade, her brownie troupe went to a nearby dinner theater to see a production of Peter Pan. By now, I was a little apprehensive about things like this. We had already seen Peter Pan on Broadway and loved it, especially at the end when Peter flew out over the audience. I was nervous when she got back from the show, and I asked her, "So, how was the play?" She shook her head in one of those crystal poses and said, "Oh, Mommy, Peter Pan didn't even fly." Her next experience in performing arts was not dance, but instrumental music. She started taking clarinet lessons so that by fourth grade, she was good enough to play with a middle school band. She continued with clarinet up through the Colt band, which was the highest of the bands in her middle school. What I didn't know was that she was just biding her time until she could get involved with a drama club in high school. By now, she had decided that she wanted to be backstage, not a performer. So she helped build and paint scenery, do makeup, and act as the dresser for the lead in our musical production of The King and I. She learned to use and program equipment like the lighting board and became student director of the dramas and stage managers of the musical productions each year. And of course, there was always Broadway. We went with a French club, we went with a history club, and of course, we went with a drama club. Some shows we attended multiple times. I'm sure it's not a record, but we saw the musical Tommy an aggregate of 13 times, and that does not count the times we saw it when Mill Mountain Theater produced it. As the end of her junior year drew nigh, Crystal started to think about the summer college visitation tour. Crystal chose Virginia colleges to visit. Having inherited strong organizational schools from her dad, she sat down with a ruler and paper and made herself a chart. She listed the colleges she wanted to visit, with columns for such things as tuition, room and board, majors and minors available, how many students, and who taught the classes. And this was all before the existence of such things as computer spreadsheets. I was discussing our upcoming trip with a friend who asked if Crystal had Roanoke College on her list. She didn't. My friend said that her brother had attended Roanoke College and loved it. So Crystal added Roanoke to her list. It was one of the smaller schools that we visited. I think Crystal realized that she would have a much better chance of participating in activities outside her major in a small school than she would in a giant university. I didn't realize that she would take that activity and make it another major, but so we came down to Roanoke College. Crystal interviewed and was invited to come back to the scholarship competition, in which she did well. I remember that first fall, bringing her down here. She had talked to her roommate, Holly, who was coming to Roanoke sight unseen. Crystal laughed that her roommate would probably be 5'1" and they would never be able to share clothes. She was right about that, but we realized Holly and Crystal were on the same wavelength when they independently chose the same bedspread for their room. Crystal loved Roanoke College, the professors, the theater department, and Theater Roanoke College. Olin Hall became almost another home, a place to do what she loved with the people she loved. Lisa Warren became a special friend and travel companion, and soon they were making frequent trips to London. I read one Facebook survey from a few years ago that Crystal filled out, where she said she wouldn't go back to high school if she were paid $1 million, but she would repeat her years at Roanoke in a heartbeat. And now her name will always be associated with a place that brought her so much joy. On behalf of the entire Van Hise and Asudis family, we thank the Roanoke College community for making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing us to share Crystal today in this way. I thank you so much for being with us here today, all of you, for an important moment for the college, for Theater Roanoke College, and for all who love and cherish Crystal. It's our common effort to preserve her memory and give us cause to celebrate her life. I thank all of you for being with us today, And everyone who's here in person is invited to a light dinner in Monterey. I'm sure you can follow someone else if you don't know where that is. It is just a couple of buildings away. Thank you all for being here today. And this concludes our program. Anyone who would like to, you're welcome to come forward and see Crystal's plaque.
But this is not the real one.
This is a replica of it, yes.
Yeah.
Just, I'm wanting to show you the wording, not the real plaque.